Hello, that was Fantaisie Valse, number 1 from Couleurs Caraibe by Valerie, Rousse and J.Littorie. This is the C3 piece of the ABRSM Grade 4 Flute Exam pieces from 2022. Taking a look at the start of the piece, we can see an F sharp in the key signature telling us that we are based in the G major key. We do get some accidentals in the G sharp, the A sharp, D sharp and the F sharp, but they all only appear once and only one of them is in the E minor, the relative minor of G major. So we're not doing any key change there. In the second half of the piece we see more accidentals, but again they are more for the flourish rather than for any key change in the piece. The G major is part of your grade 4 syllabus going up to 2 octaves. The instruction of play here is avec humour, which means with humor. This could mean a couple of different things. First, the many accidentals which makes an appearance in the piece, or the sudden doubling of speed, or the use of staccatos in the second half of the page. Speaking of the doubling of the speed, we start off in 3/4 time. We then get a time change halfway through to 6/8, so we're going from 3 quatuors to 6 quavers. Now normally this wouldn't mean anything, but we also do have a speed change. So essentially we're doubling the speed. However, if you count in 3 crotchets in the 3/4, then you can use the same counting speed for quavers in 6/8. In the first half of the page, we are playing dotted minimum equals 60 beats per minute. So if when we're counting in crotchets, it's this speed. And in the second half of the piece where we are in 6/8 time, we are doing dotted crotchet equals 60 beats per minute. So counting in quavers, we're in this speed. So you can see that if we are counting in crotchets in the first half and then quavers in the second half, we don't actually have to change our counting speed if we go from crotchets to quavers. This piece is in an ABA form, where the A section is bar 1 to 32, the first half of the page. It is essentially formed from 4 phrases, with the first 3 having a very similar structure. A syncopated first half and then a more fluid rhythm on the beat on the second half. The final phrase is made up of 2 very similar rhythms, which is more on the beat and similar to the second half of the first 3. So here is the A section, bar 1 to 32. The B section is from bar 33 to 44. We have a time change, a key change, and we're also playing a lot of semiquavers as well. So here is the B section. At the end of the B section, we see DC al fine, or dal capo al fine, meaning that we're going back to the start and then playing until we see the word fine. This means that we are playing the entirety of the A section, bar 1 to 32 again, with the only difference being that we're going to end on the bar that says the word fine, so the bar with the number 1 instead of the bar with the number 2. The A section has 4 phrases, which each taking up 8 bars. They're not difficult phrases, but there are a few quirks in them. We start off with an MF from the start of the piece, and here we see our first interesting point, the syncopation. We have 2 crotchets tied across bar 1 and bar 2. Now this is not difficult to count if you're counting in crotchets. There's also a tied crotchet to a dotted minim going across bar 3 and bar 4. So the rhythm for bar 1 to bar 4 is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We can take a breath after that, and bar 5 to bar 8 is pretty simple. So bar 1 to bar 8. Slightly different rhythm in bar 9 to 12. The first note isn't slurred with the rest of the notes, and in bar 10 and 11, the crotchet and minim have swapped places compared to bar 2 and 3. This gives us the following rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Again, another breath after that, and also different tonguing in bar 13 to 15, essentially each bar getting their own slur. So from bar 9, bar 17 to 20 is the same notes-wise to bar 1 to 4 with the 2 caveats. The first one is that the dynamics is now in MP, so we are slightly quieter, and 2, the last note is now tied to a minim instead of a dotted minim. This gives an upbeat for bar 21 to 24, which essentially is a scale going up, but we're missing a few notes. We're also doing a crescendo landing on an MF again in bar 23. So from bar 17, onto the last phrase now, starting a crescendo on bar 25. Be careful that now we are on the higher register. There is a high D, a high D sharp, a high E, and a high G note in bar 26 and 27. So make sure you know the fingering for those, as well as preparing your blowing and embouchure for the higher notes, getting that thin and narrow high speed air. When we get to bar 26, we are also on a forte as well, which is useful because naturally we are loud when we are playing the high notes. The rhythm is slightly different, but still very easily countable by crotchets. We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Another upbeat in bar 28, very similar rhythm to what we had before in bar 25 to 27. This time we're decrescendoing all the way down to a piano. When we get to bar 32, we're skipping the bar with the number 1 and going straight to the bar with the number 2. So demo from bar 25 to 32. Take care that in bar 25 to 27, the notes are all slurred together. We do not get an individually tongued note to help us get the notes out. So on your first high D note, you really need to get that right, which will help you get out your D sharp, your E, and your high G. On to the B section then. We have a speed change and a time signature change. We've gone from a dotted minimum equals 60 beats per minute to a dotted crotchet equals 60 beats per minute, meaning that we have essentially doubled the speed. However, we don't actually need to count twice as fast, as this actually equates to us counting the same speed in quavers in the B section if we were counting crotchets in the A section. This means that if we started counting the piece in crotchets, we can use the same counting speed, just that instead of the crotchets, we are now counting in quavers. The thing to look out for is that there is quite a few accidentals in here. This could lead to a key change to an E minor with a D sharp and C sharp, but they're not really consistent throughout the section, so it is slightly unclear. We also have staccatos in the section, as we can see immediately in bar 33. Starting off in an MP, we have two sets of 2 semiquavers and 2 quavers, where the 2 semiquavers are slurred and the 2 quavers are staccatoed. After that, in bar 34, we are mostly in semiquavers except for the last note being a dotted crotchet, which is 3 quavers. We crescendo in bar 34 as well, taking a breath before the MF in bar 35. Also look out, the C note is natural for the first time in bar 33, sharpened the second time, and then natural again in bar 34. So bar 33 to 34. Bar 35 to 36 is similar to what we had previously in bar 33 to 34, starting off with a note higher, but the melodic shape in bar 36 is slightly different to what we had in bar 34. Again, there are quite a few accidentals in these two bars. Taking a breath again now in a forte. We have a slightly different rhythm in bar 37 with a crotchet and a quaver after the 6 semiquavers. There is also a G sharp in that bar, but in the bar after bar 38 the G is naturaled. Look at that, the two bars are slurred together and that we have a decrescendo as well. Back to an MF on bar 39 after the decrescendo. We are again on a similar rhythm compared to bar 37 and 38, but the melodic shape is quite different. The two bars are again slurred together, but the quaver in bar 37 is being swapped out for 2 semiquavers in bar 39, and also there is no dynamic change here, so we're just staying on an MF. Skipping the first repeat and going straight to the second repeat. We're crescendoing towards a forte in bar 43, but we need to look out for a couple of things. First is the rhythm. We have a quaver on the 4th beat with a whole string of semiquavers before and after. It is not a complicated rhythm, just that with something we've not seen before. This leads on to the second thing, which is the tonguing. We break the slur on the quaver between the two bars. Thirdly, we have a quaver rest at the end, so that the last note is only a crotchet length. And as always, look out for the many accidentals in these bars. You might think that we're done here, but we have DC al fine, dal capo al fine, meaning that we need to repeat from the beginning up to the word fine, which signifies the end. So we're playing all of bar 1 to 32 again. When we get to bar 32 this time, we're playing the bar with the number 1 on top of it, as it has the word fine written there. I won't repeat the details of the A section, as it is exactly the same as what we had before. And that's the end of the piece. Well, that was the tutorial of the C piece, Fantaisie Valse by Valerie Rousse and J.Littorie. This is a contrasting piece with an A section with slower and longer phrases and a lively B section. The main challenge of the piece is definitely getting the speed in the B section up. So if you are struggling, then do practice slower, get your muscle memory in, and then slowly build up your speed. If you're really struggling, then you can play a little bit slower. You don't have to get that 60 beats per minute. You can bring that a little bit slower, maybe down to 55 or 50. There are also other challenges, such as navigating the many accidentals in the piece, making sure you're on the correct bar for the repeats, the dynamics, and also the high G note in bar 27 as well. but considering that the dynamics and the rhythm is fairly simple, it is quite a nice piece to play once you get your speed up. Hopefully that was useful to you. That was the last of the grade 4 pieces, so I'll start on the grade 5 pieces soon. Check out all of the other pieces I've done a tutorial on in the grade 4 playlist. Give a like and subscribe if you like what I did here. Put a comment down below if you want me to go over anything specific, or if you want to share your own tips and tricks with your fellow viewers. And I'll see you on the next video on Master of None. Bye!